There were no Jews in Egypt. Okay, so Brendan, if you had an extra arm, where would you have it on your body, and how would it affect your life?
I'd have it coming out of the top of my spine, almost like up to the shoulders, around that area, like between the shoulder blades, just because it can easily slot in. Yeah. I'd use it just scratch my head, keep my hair out of my eyes. Could possibly hold like a book in front of me, just to get me educated, get me reading. I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, I find myself in constant need to facepalm. In Trump's America nowadays, there's many a facepalm worthy moment. So I would have it right just in my navel. So just prime position to just smack myself in the face every time I encounter a totally epic fail on Facebook.
I'd use my arm just to remind me that he's not my president. Quite literally.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have the need for a facepalm and arm. I mean, you could possibly remind yourself of the piece of paper. Not my president.
And just have the arm reach down every now and then whenever you're in doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you'd be reaching up with your arm.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how different would that be compared to protests that have no real intent behind them against the president?
What do you mean by that, Brad? Let's shift the gaze back to the question maker, the question partaker.
Yeah. I would say probably about a 3, because nothing sums it up better than this one clip I've seen where there's a bunch of people at a protest and a guy with a microphone walks up to this group of people and he's like, "Hey, what's this protest about?" And she goes, "We're here to stop Trump." And he goes, "How are you gonna do that?" And he hands the microphone back to her and she just freezes. She doesn't know what to do.
What's your favorite protest casualty?
I remember seeing this short clip of this chick with dreads or something getting punched in the face. I remember at first being like, oh, that's pretty intense, but I later found out she actually owned pipe bombs and stuff. She was a legitimate terrorist, so I didn't feel too bad for her.
They're called communists. My favorite casualty was this big fat lady. She got bumped by a car and her heart gave out. So the evil alt-right driver of the car, well, you know what happened to him? He's dead. Strung up and corded, slit his wrists a bit, to make him look like he's suffered.
God, that's so dark.
It also doesn't make sense. Therein lies the humor.
Do you agree that random equals funny, or do you disagree with that?
I'm a fervent opponent of random equals funny. Random does not equal funny. Random can equal funny. It has the propensity.
So would you say that random would not equal funny in the case where there's a purple turtle that gets thrown off a building and then explodes when it hits the ground, and then the explosion is made out of feathers, which then all turn into babies?
That's pretty funny. So you were laughing because it's funny.
Thus confirming. As you said, random does in fact equal funny.
Yeah. What's your opinion on the recent YouTube HQ shooting?
I heard about that. Apparently it was personally charged. The person responsible was doing it for reasons not related to their opinion towards YouTube.
I heard that popular YouTuber Boogie, some numbers, 23981337, Boogie was there, and he's in hospital in critical condition now. He wasn't shot, he just
He just what?
What do you think, okay? His poor heart gave out because he's so fat. And he got scared. Okay? What do you think? No, he wasn't even in the building. It's just such a big target, so of course he's gonna get hit.
Do you think if he dies from his heart giving out, they're gonna fucking string and quarter his doctor?
I hope they put him into like a meat processing plant. Like what's the good part of the cow, of the steak?
Yeah.
It's the meat. Is it the muscle? Or is it the
meat? Meat is muscle. You do understand that, right?
They're the same?
When you eat meat, you're eating muscle.
It's the same.
Yeah, that's why veal is so soft, because it's a baby cow that hasn't exercised its muscle.
I do like lazy baby cows. They're very tasty. I don't think a big fat YouTuber would be very
Some people like fat though.
Fat? Chubby bubbies?
Well,
chubby chasers?
Not so much like in and attracted to a person who is chubby, but like in their meat, you know? Like, prosciutto. That has thin strips of very salty meat, but often has a lot of fat along it. Really showing off my bourgeois here. And people like the fat on that. It's like pork belly, that's a good example. People love fat on pork belly.
Some people just have the skin. They cook it and turn it into crackle, if you know that.
I've heard of crackle, yeah.
You fucking bourgeois. Careful, the communists might be around.
That's the last thing I want, is to be strung up and quartered by the communists.
Lynched by the working class. Your biggest fear.
Would you say that working in a nightclub puts me in the working class?
Some people can't afford to go to a nightclub, okay? They work 15-hour days. They break their backs hauling big bits of fatty meat into the meat processor. Hauling off carcasses of big fat people who've had their hearts go out on them because they're near a disaster situation.
Did you know? Here's a little fun fact. Did you know that the reason why we have words like beef and poultry and all of that is because there was such a disconnect between farmers and the rich back in the day that they would, like poor people would kill chickens and they would eat it, and they'd be eating chicken, and then they'd send it off to the rich people who didn't even know what chickens were. They just knew there was some kind of bird that they ate, so they then referred to it as poultry. Same thing with meat and venison.
The shit-covered peasants crowding around the dinner table with their freshly prepared venison. They eat it. Shut up, you're supposed to come in at some point. Pull me out of it.
Come in at some point? You only just started talking.
I'll give you that one, but next time, okay? Next time?
Alright.
Come on, next time?
Next time, I'll help you out.
Yeah, next time you're fucking supposed to be a good co-host. Yeah, that's right. Co-host.
Pulling out the big CH word. Before it was...
Chubby heaven.
Cerebral palsy. Which is a condition in your spine that makes it really easy to haul things.
Well, that was spina bifida.
Spina bifida?
Yeah, man. I contracted spina bifida when I went to the gym for like one time. I came out looking like I had rickets.
But damn, you could haul some shit. Damn, you could haul some fatty meat to the meat processor.
Like my peasant ancestors hauling meat and hauling grain on their backs, carting it hundreds of miles. Meanwhile, you bourgeois assholes never even knew what chicken was. Or venison.
Do you think our ancestors at some point ever met Brennan?
God, I hope not. My uncle was probably delivering tea to your parents while they sat upon their throne, barely even looking after their little child, the little 5-year-old child in a suit and tie, in a little sailor outfit even, getting cared by my aunt, your childhood caregiver, in the halls of the mansion, of the castle, the fortress that you own.
How does it feel knowing that I've seen your aunt's tits more than you have?
You really won there. It's good to know that.
It's good to be humbled sometimes, you know?
It's good to be humbled. Sometimes, I wish I would have seen my relatives' breasts. Did my aunt breastfeed you?
Yeah, of course. She's been looking after me since I was freshly born.
God, you cucked my uncle.
I did.
It was his breast. That was his one breast. You took it from him.
Does he have a mono boob?
Mono boob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard of this great thing. Yeah. It's woobs. It's like moobs, but on a woman.
Dear God. Took us that long to get a word for it.
Yeah.
My aunt had a very hard time growing up. Her center of gravity was all off. Because of her mono boob.
So it was the weight of two boobs put into one.
Well, yeah. You'd fucking hang off them by your teeth in there. She'd try and get you off. It'd be very comical in a way. Her saggy one tit be flopping about with you at the end.
Your uncle masturbating in the corner.
Yeah. Family photos are pretty great back in those days. It's good to know that my family has a lot of history in working with
the bourgeois.
The upper class.
I forgot the name of the show, but I remember it now. It's Who Do You Think You Are? Where they just get celebrities with like really embellished pasts and they're like, hey, you had like a family that did this stuff. But they try to ignore the fact that a lot of people are related to racists and Nazis.
I hate how the rest of human history is just awful. And this past, 2 years, it's been alright. But other than that, awful. Killers and racists. The whole world over. For thousands of years. Awful stuff.
Terrible.
Sexists. For thousands of years. Awful. And we've finally reached equality.
Finally cleaned off our act, you know?
Yeah. Humanity as a whole is basically just... all good now.
Yeah.
I've no complaints.
One time I accidentally catcalled a woman.
How'd that go down?
It's a true story.
She called the authorities?
I saw this chick and I thought she was someone that I knew. And I called out, "Nice legs. What are you, a woman?" She turned and looked at me and it wasn't my friend.
Ooh.
It's too embarrassed to even apologize. Started walking away.
You didn't own it like a really good piece of ironic comedy?
Nothing I do is ironic.
One time I was in class, way back in high school, and I saw my friend, or what I thought was my friend, walking by me. And, since he was my mate, we were kind of jokey around. As he walked by, I kind of I slapped him a bit. As he went, I looked to see if it actually was my friend, because it was a very similar body shape. It was a big Maori kid. And I looked, and it was in fact a woman, a girl classmate, and she had a disgusted look. And I did not look her in the eyes, and I never spoke to her again. And I wished nothing but death upon me for the next 4 years. Every time I would see her. Sexists, right?
Yeah, I'm glad that we don't have them anymore.
Yeah. I mean, last 2 years, yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff.
Entire course of human history. Bad stuff.
Yeah. 2016 +1 and +2 has been a good time. I'd say we've entered a golden age. Similar to back when the Egyptians built all of their pyramids. That was a golden age for equality as well.
All of them Jew workers, they were having fun.
Well, not really.
Actually, I think that's not a joke.
Because they didn't exist.
What?
They didn't. There were no Jews in Egypt back then. There were none.
Jesus.
There were none.
The global anti-Jewish conspiracy.
But there weren't any. There were never any. There's no proof. I'm getting so heated about this. There's no proof of there ever being Jews in Egypt around that time.
But there's a book of fairy tales that says that there were.
Well, you can't believe everything you read in books.
Every Western and even Eastern, well, not Asia, not like Japan. All of those religions are all based on Hebrew stuff. So shouldn't there be a little bit? People that might have came from Jordan going down into Egypt?
Well, you know ghost writers, right? If you get someone to write your autobiography...
Nicolas Cage?
Yeah. If you get...
Ghostwriter, okay.
If you get someone to do your autobiography for you, that you're a ghostwriter, and they'll figure out everything about you, and they'll write your story, and they'll embellish a lot of stuff to make it seem interesting. When you look at the Bible, right, Old Testament and New Testament, it's all written by a whole bunch of people whole bunch of different people. I'd say it's a series of ghostwriters giving up because they forget what they were even trying to write. They hand it off to someone else to ghostwrite, and it's just a chain of ghostwriters, and it's kind of like Chinese whispers until eventually you have lies, like there being Jews in Egypt being used as slaves.
I can't believe God even let it get published then.
Yeah.
Like, he's put his names on it.
Yeah.
It's not even his work.
He was going so far as to make that if you spell God with a lowercase g, the person writing that like copy of the Bible had to burn all of it and start all over again.
That's pretty funny.
And that's very true.
My favorite joke was the one where colonial British getting to North America, or even really any country that the colonial British went to. Were they colonial British before they started colonizing a specific place?
No, they were they were just British before then.
And then they're colonial.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The colonial British, when they...
Because that's when they were colonizing everything.
Yeah. The colonial British, when they get on their ship and they go to America, and they're like, oh, we actually are colonizers. We found a place. Chris Columbus, he was a colonizer. My favorite joke is when they threaten eternal suffering and death onto a population of people because they haven't heard about their cool religion. You know, if they don't accept Jesus into their hearts as a culture, then they will eternally suffer. My favorite part of that is why they have to tell them about it.
Well, the thing is, if you don't know about the Christian faith and you go on your whole life without knowing about it and you die, you actually go to heaven, which makes no sense because of some other stuff. But let me just finish this little train of thought. You go to heaven because you haven't rejected God in any way. It's quite similar to being a lawful and kind atheist to a degree, but even more like brownie points. Because you don't even know who God is, so there's no way that you can reject him, therefore you're living in unwillful ignorance. So you actually get to go to heaven because of that. However, that also makes no sense because you haven't been baptized, so you're still born with original sin. So depending on which conversation you're having with different people, you'll get different answers on that. That's just how Christianity works. So I remember hearing this one story of this evangelist going to places in southern Africa and spreading like Christianity to them, and then one of the people from the village he was at comes up to him and they're like, oh, you mentioned like basically the whole if you don't know about it then you go to heaven type thing. And he's like, yeah, why did you tell us? It's like, why would you tell us? Because now we're in the position where we could go to hell forever and like burn and be tortured for like eternity. And the guy who was telling me about it, it was like the same person. He kind of like laughed about it. And he was like, yeah, well, you know, I had to tell him. So that way, like Christianity and stuff. And I reflect on that now. I'm like, yeah, that African dude is like really fucking mad right now. He's someone like, why did he have to come and tell us? It ruined everything.
I'll get you thinking about this. What if you never knew about God, you never knew about the Christian religions, you never knew about any of that? Totally ignorant, blissful ignorance. And you were accidentally baptized. You know, you fell in the pool. You didn't really know what was going on, and you never even found out. So you're baptized, and you're in blissful ignorance. You don't have original sin anymore because you're baptized. But you are a serial killer.
A serial killer is typically a person who murders 3 or more people, usually in service of abnormal psychological gratification, with the murders taking place over more than a month and including a significant period of time between them. Would you like to hear more?
Yes.
Different authorities apply different criteria when designating serial killers. While most set a threshold of 3 murders, others extend it to 4 or lessen it to 2. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, for example, defines serial killing as a series of 2 or more murders, committed as separate events, usually, but not always, by one offender acting alone.
Thank you for the clarification. I would say, yeah, they'd be okay, as fucked up as that is. Though they probably wouldn't go to heaven. They would go to purgatory, which is a place of penance, in which they would be enlightened to the nature of God, and then they would have to spend however long it takes to repent and eventually go up into heaven. And if they still, after that, then decide to reject God's light, then they would go to hell.
It's pretty well thought out.
I've gone to a Catholic school.
Makes sense.
This is like...
You're relapsing.
Yeah.
I went to a public school, so I'm godless, so I'm all good. Eternal suffering is coming my way.
Hell yeah. Though, from what I've learnt, if you ignore the whole fire and brimstone thing, true hell is just the absence of God's love. So hell would just be a place devoid of God. If God doesn't exist in this realm, you could argue that we actually are in hell.
But his face appeared on some bits of toast.
That's true.
Surely he isn't a part of this realm. What do you think people's prayers are going to then?
Just going to a really big answering machine, I'm sorry.
Heaven is just like an ant's nest. It's like a fire ant's nest and you have to sit on it for a bit. Everyone's doing it because it's heaven. Like, you get up there and you're like, why is everyone sitting on like fire ant nests? And then Jesus turns to you and is like, this is how it's been going. So you sit on the fire ant's nest and you have a good time. You talk to Jesus, he's next to you. But you got fire ants like they're definitely doing stuff like on you. They're biting. You're choosing to ignore it, but they're definitely there. Would you reject God's light then?
I mean, if that's all heaven was...
but it's cloudy, it's nice. There's angels, they have harps.
I would inquire with Jesus in my initial chat. I'd be like, so this is heaven, what's purgatory and hell like?
Well, purgatory is like an endless nothingness, but there's no fire ants. Hell, well, apparently hell's earth, so you could just go back.
That's reincarnation. The Buddhist got it right.
You get turned into a piece of sound insulating foam.
You have to listen to everything that gets projected into you.
Yeah, how horrible. Listening to this conversation, perhaps. Souls of your ancestors. If you could live forever, but you'd have to have your soul put into a light switch fitting. Like, you have full 360-degree view outwards. You don't have eyes, though, but it's magic, whatever. And your soul just is eternally a bit of plastic.
It would depend on where the light switch cover is. Because you have to think of somewhere that would be exciting to be a light switch cover of.
A bar.
A bar.
At a club.
Yeah. Or like a bedroom of a guy who has sex a lot.
But you're not thinking long term, because all light switch covers eventually end up in the same place.
True.
And after a few million years...
There's only so much you can look at.
By then, they'd probably have soul transfer, and they'd eventually figure out that there's eventually a soul trapped in this. You could possibly get put in a sick robot body. Probably like the T-800.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have the T-1000s yet, that's a bit crazy.
Yeah. It'd be kind of like Dirk Gently detective service thing. You don't know? Okay, never mind then.
I know who wrote it. Max Landis.
Yeah.
Rapist. Oh, he said a thing to a girl, but I was in bad times. I was over 2 years ago. How long ago was that cat call?
That was, about 2 years ago.
So there's no denying it. You are going to go to jail. If it's within the last 2 years, it can be absolved because this is the good times, golden age. Renaissance? It's 2 years ago. It's on file somewhere. They're getting to it.
Yeah.
They're going to storm in here with fucking guns, aiming at your little head. You're gonna die if you don't get on your knees right now. You fucking sexist scum. Shouldn't have done it. You get fucking put up to the firing squad too. Did that stupid...
The slap thing.
Slap thing.
In fact, I think I might have a chance at redemption because I just used words. You came into physical contact with
Physical contact with a woman. You shouldn't ever do that. Women do not want to be touched. Especially by people like you and me. So... we're not in the best situation, are we?
No.
I'll tell you about the time I was locked in the toilet at school.
No.
Well, I say that, but I was almost locked in by a really cunty sports teacher. Gym teacher? PE teacher? You know how it is.
Yeah.
He didn't like me one little bit. Because I was a little tubby, thin-wristed kind of little baby boy. He didn't like me one bit. So I couldn't keep up with all the strong athletic chads, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably fucking in the bottom of the ocean somewhere because he fucking ditched a basketball at a girl's head and she was passed out once he hit the floor. So, yeah, the sexist police got him. I mean, they're not sexist police. They enforce the laws about sexism.
Yeah.
So, yeah, since I was a slow boy, I took my time getting to the changing room after a lesson. And then I took my time getting changed because I have a little tubby body, really afraid of people seeing my rolls. I'm trying to do it quick, but I'm fumbling. You know how it is. You get in a bit of a fluster and you can't do it right. And you end up looking like even more of a total waste of space. Always fun. And, yeah, suddenly empty changing room, and I'm like, I know what's gonna fucking happen next, because he's out there and he's impatient and he doesn't know why I exist half the time, because I am little tubby freak. So I'm walking to the door. I hear a key. Jingling into the lock. His stubby, fat hands, like all fucking dissatisfied, pot-bellied, middle-aged gym teachers have. The sausage hands. And they're grotesquely massive hands. The key goes in, but out I come. I burst out. And I look at him. I don't say a word, but he says, sorry. I'd tell you, if we lived in America, I would move schools because it's easier.
All right, thank you so much for listening.